Tears of the Kingdom is intimidatingly gigantic and filled to the brim with hidden depth. Its sandbox allows for all kinds of awkward hijinks, but also some really inventive solutions to problems. So I'm gonna pass on some of the most useful tactics I've been using for combat traversal and a few other things that you can start putting to use at pretty much the very beginning of the game. I'm Alex, and these are some tips for Tears of the Kingdom. And hey, if you're new here but want more Zelda breakdowns, hit subscribe because I have some more in the works right now. First up is using the Ultra Hand ability and recall to create your own elevators and moving platforms. Kinda like coding a super simple little animation, the game is constantly recording the path that objects move while you're controlling them with Ultra Hand. So if you're trying to get across a gap or up to something, you can physically move an object along the path you want it to take, put it back in front of you, and activate recall on it to send it along that route. That'll let you climb aboard and ride on your own custom moving platforms. It also helps that clinging to something without moving doesn't drain your stamina. Even one simple tree log, which is found pretty much everywhere, can be more useful than just for making a basic bridge. Which I'm sure you've tried building super log by now, I think everyone does that, but you can get extra reach out of your platforms by using the technique I just showed, so that you don't have to stick quite as many things together. For example, put a long platform with the front section towards the edge of a gap. Grab it from the frontmost object, move it out as far as you can, then rotate it around 180, which almost doubles the distance it reaches, and then put it right back to where it started. Now jump on the opposite far end and activate recall on it. You don't even have to move now and risk falling off, just patiently wait for the platform to rotate you around the animated route you set. That'll let you traverse a large gap without barely moving and with less objects glued together. Next, who wants to play a shield surf game of skate? Alright, I'll go first. The metal rails and minecart tracks you'll find can actually be grinded on while shield surfing. To do that, hold ZL and then press X followed by A to jump onto your shield. You can speed up or slow down while grinding and transfer to the left or right. If you fuse something chunky onto your shield, this won't work though. Before you get the paraglider, if you find yourself falling to your death, you can just fast travel to save yourself from that splat. Now let's talk about a few useful fusion combinations, like building your own Hylian skateboard. Fusing a cart to your shield will give you a better way to shield surf on rough terrain. Slap a rocket onto your shield, and when you hold block, you'll be blasted up into the air. This also works with an octo balloon, but just a little bit slower. Fusing mushrooms onto weapons gives them a super knockback effect on the last hit of combo strings or from charge attacks. If you find a weapon that has the quick charge bonus on it, that can let you fling out those bouncy bumps even faster. Attaching a spring to your shield will let you bounce into the air when you do a shield surf. That destroys the spring but keeps the shield intact in case you want to put another one on or something else. In battle, that will reflect back projectiles and bounce enemies that get too close. Fusing a ruby, opal, topaz, or sapphire to a weapon will give you an elemental staff of either fire, water, lightning, or ice. But with your standard weapons, it'll just lob out one projectile at a time. However, if you find a magic scepter or rod, those will amplify the effect of attached gems. That will launch 3 projectiles with your basic swings, or shoot out numerous orbs all around you with a charge attack. The ice effect with this is really useful for creating on-the-fly platforms on water, or a pile of them with the charged blast. Link Mage confirmed. If you put those elemental gems onto a shield, blocks will blast their effect each time they're struck. Although these gems sell for a good amount of rupees, they can be game changers if you use them for combat. Next, expanding from the first tip on moving platforms, you can take that a step further to create custom trap mechanisms, even with super basic materials. Moving and spinning objects while using Ultra Hand doesn't deal damage to enemies, but if they're being recalled, their inertia will. Here's a simple spinning trap you can build with just basic materials you'll find all over the place. Use a wheel as a center point and connect 4 square logs. If you don't have a centered object like that wheel, you're not going to be able to spin it around quite as fast because of how it rotates. Pick up your trap with Ultra Hand, send it out, and start winding it up by rotating it. Activate Recall, and your trap will come to life and smack anything that comes in contact with it. Using traps like this in choke points can be even more effective, since enemies are forced to try to go through your little gauntlet. Another simple trap you can build with basic materials is 4 logs stuck together with a center platform. This gives you a rotating trap that you can physically stand on as you're protected by the spinning loggage, and you can even snipe enemies while you're up there. There's pretty much infinite trap devices you could invent with this technique. These are just super basic examples, but if you happen to build an epic death trap, hit me up on Twitter at BoomstickAlex with a clip. I want to see it. Now, let's say you have deep, horrific regrets after fusing butter to your best sword, creating Butter Sword. Well, go into your inventory and you can remove materials you've attached to gear. It destroys the material, but at least that lets you refuse the item with something else. I kinda liked Butter Sword. Next, you know these wing devices that don't just fly on their own, well, you might think they always need to be on tracks to get them into their flight mode. Not so, you always have the ability to get these into their flight mode from pretty much anywhere. Place one of these on the edge of something, then use Ultra Hand to extend it out over into the air, then bring it on back and place it in front of you. Activate Recall on it, jump on, and when it's out over the edge, tap L to cancel the recall. That will send it plummeting with you on it, which allows it to start gliding like normal. Attach a fan on the back of one of those beforehand, and that will let you fly a little straighter while it's active. If you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere on the surface but want to quickly get to flying, no problem. Find one of these rocks that fall from the sky and stick a set of wings on top of it. Activate Recall on the stone to send it upwards, and when it reaches its peak, use Ultra Hand to shake the wings free with you on board. Tall things just got a lot easier to reach. If you're in need of more of those wings, head to this device dispenser on Great Sky Island to stock back up. Before you get the paraglider, you can also use this same method to avoid fall damage. With something like a log, send it out vertically, then bring it back. Hit Recall, climb onto the side of it, and hit Cancel when it's out over the edge. Doing this lets you avoid any fall damage, since the object takes all the impact instead of you, I guess. Next, keep an eye out for golden apples that have a chance to spawn on apple trees. These are like super apples that will amplify your cooking. Here's a basic recipe using a golden apple. It gives 8 hearts and 8 minutes 30 seconds of a defense buff. That exact same recipe, but using a boring red apple, will yield a lesser version providing 6 hearts and only a 3-minute 10-second buff. Next, these flame emitters that you can find really early on can be more useful actually not slapped onto a weapon or shield that's just going to break. Activating these on their own and then picking them up with Ultra Hand turns them into the perfect little flamethrower, and they won't even get destroyed from use. You can just keep using these over and over when your battery energy is charged, and there's a few different types of emitters you can use like this that you'll find a bit later. If you want to stock up on those flame emitters, head to this dispenser machine on Great Sky Island. By the way, if you toss in 5 charges at a time, it'll spit out bonus capsules for you. If you throw in 5 large charges, well... And last, a little bonus tip for you right at the end. When you spot one of these Blupee creatures, they will immediately run away and escape if they see you, but they spill out rupees each time they're damaged. best to try to get a slight elevation whenever you see these, so that you can use the aerial slow-mo shot to hit them while they're frozen in time. You can also just plop down a fan if there's no higher terrain nearby, and that'll give you just enough lift to snipe the adorable wildlife. That's it for now. Those were just some of the early game tips I had for you that I didn't already cover in my Get Link Overpowered guide. Check that out for some other useful stuff if you haven't yet. Also, I have more content planned for Tears of the Kingdom, and this is just barely scratching the surface of what's possible, so stick around if you're interested in more Zelda. As always, I'm Alex, thanks for watching, and I'll leave you with some bonus footage of me trying to learn to shield surf like Link with a pot lid like an idiot. See ya.